You will need to be able to mark and shade a normal curve when you're trying to find a value as well as finding a probability. So there's a different video that covers finding the probability. But if we want to shade correctly and find the value, we're still going to use our normal calculator. So I've got StatCrunch open over here on the right-hand side of my screen. But we're still dealing with SAT critical reading scores. We know they're normally distributed with a mean of 506. Oof. And a standard deviation of 11.8. Man, my pen is not happy right now. We want to find the critical reading score that represents the top 15%. So when I plug my mean and my standard deviation, and when I label those things on my curve, remember that the top part of the graph is to the right and the bottom is to the left. So if I want the top 15%, I'm looking for some value where this area is 0.15. And remember that your probability statement in proper notation is basically just like what you would have in StatCrunch. So we're going to leave this number right here where I've got the 523. I'm going to erase that. And instead, and I already have it greater than or equal to, so that's great. I'm going to put in 0.15 over here in the right side of the equal sign. And so that's going to be a score of 518.2. I don't see what it... It doesn't have a rounding on this specific question, so I'll just go to 1 decimal place. All right, then we want to find the critical reading score that represents the 44th percentile. Well, remember that percentiles are always dealing with that percent is the percentage that is below. Trying to erase without losing my mean and standard deviation. There we go. And it went back to the pen automatically. Okay, great. So our 44th percentile, remember, this would be the 50th percentile. So you don't need to mark that. In fact, let me do that in blue. Just that's kind of a note for right now. Instead, since the 44th percentile is going to be lower, then I want to mark it as P44, not just an X. I want to mark this area as 0.44. And again, as far as that proper probability notation, this is what would be going in StatCrunch. Okay. I don't know why that has a blue box around it, but all right. Get rid of that. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to switch my symbol, and then I'm going to also switch my area. So I want to know what value would have me X less than or equal to what value gives me 44% to the left. And that's going to be 504.2. And there's a little typo in this next one. Find the critical reading scores that represent the middle 80%. So for that, I'm going to need to switch over to between. But same idea. I'm looking for these two values. So I'm going to let 0.80 be my area in this box to the right of the equal sign. And then when I click compute, it'll give me those two numbers. So as far as my picture is concerned, if this is what I'm needing to shade or mark and label, then of course I'll have my 506. Sigma is 11.8. And then you can do x1 and x2, that's fine. And then within this little area, we're saying that that middle portion is 0.80. And so that first number, and these of course will be the ones that you put into StatCrunch, 490.9. And the second one, 521.1. So as far as what you would write out, nope, goodness, there we go. So basically you're just identifying that these are the two numbers that you're trying to find. Okay. So again, for this one, you'll only need to mark up one normal curve on the paper portion of the test, but you will have a couple of different questions that have you finding a value. And they won't all necessarily be the same situation. So make sure you're going in and you're changing the mean and standard deviation for each one of those questions.